If everybody could actually mute their mics unless they're speaking, please.
We are now live, Chair.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. My name is Councillor Anand, and I shall be chairing this meeting with my colleagues, Councillor Gareth Shaw, Councillor John Ball, and we comprise of today's committee subcommittee hearing. With us, we'll have Jack Roberts, who is the clerk to the subcommittee and will be minuting the minutes. And Hatton Zahib is the legal advisor to the subcommittee, and Sonia Francis, the licensing processing officer, will introduce the report. Before we introduce the report, would everybody please introduce yourselves so it can be recorded for the minutes?
I'm happy to go first, I suppose, Chair. My name's Freddie Humphreys, and I'm the barrister speaking on behalf of the applicant today.
Thank you.
And I'm Hekmat Bavary. I'm the applicant of the application.
I'm David Morbin. I'm the General Manager of NOPA.
I'm Zaim Chowdhury. I'm the agent on the case.
I'm Zubair Chowdhury and I'm the business partner.
I'm Peter Vettervale, instructing solicitors.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm PC Kerry Smart, Police Licensing Officer.
I'm Sonia Francis, Licensing Department, Licensing Processing.
Thank you. If everybody has now introduced yourselves, I will explain you the procedure before we introduce the report. Basically, I will be inviting the licensing officer to introduce the report and provide clarification on any factual issues. Then I will be inviting the applicant to present the application, answer any questions, and call any witnesses. And thereafter, I'll invite those who have made representations or objections to make their representations, answer questions of any witnesses. At the conclusion, the subcommittee, accompanied by the legal advisor and the committee clerk, will retire to consider the decision. The decision will be at the end of the meeting, and we will advise of the time of deliberations that we required, and it will be confirmed in writing in 5 days. If the panel cannot reach a decision today, you will be notified in writing within 5 working days. So if we could now please introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Hekmat Bavary made an application for premises licence in relation to Nova Lounge, Unit 2, Royal Leisure Park, Pendle Avenue, Acton, London, W3 0PH. One representation has been received from the Metropolitan Police Service. The licensable activity hours applied for are as follows. Supply of alcohol on the premises, Monday to Tuesday, 1700 hours to 0000 hours, Wednesday and Thursday, 1700 hours to 0030 hours, Friday to Sunday, 1700 hours to 0130 hours, late night refreshments indoors, Monday to Wednesday, 2300 hours to 0000 hours, Thursday 2300 hours to 0030 hours, Friday to Sunday 2300 hours to 0130 hours, recorded music indoors, Monday to Wednesday 2300 hours to 0000 hours, Thursday 2300 hours to 0100 hours, Friday and Saturday, 2300 hours to 0200 hours, Sunday, 2300 hours to 0130 hours. The premises is a restaurant, and the premises is not located within a special policy area. Thank you, Chair. open to factual information if relevant.
Thank you. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you.
Now, I invite the applicant to present the application, please. So, Mr. Humphreys.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, just before I begin, can I just clarify one point on procedure? Once we've heard what the objectors have got to say, do we have the opportunity to then just summarise our case? I'd understood that from the written procedure. I just wanted to check that.
Yes, you're right, Mr. Humphreys. You will get the last opportunity to summarise the case.
Thank you very much for that clarification, Chair. Well, Chair, good afternoon to yourself and fellow councillors. Just to give you
Mr. Humphreys, if you would just pause a moment. Chair, legal advisor to the panel. Can I just check one thing before Mr. Humphreys proceeds? Mr. Humphreys, we've received, I believe this morning, a notice from your solicitors, a notice of acknowledgement in relation to 2 further witnesses, if I can put it that way, that you'll be sort of calling to be able to present to the panel today. What I wanted to check, and no doubt you'll be aware of the hearing regulations, is that PC Smart is aware of those additional representatives that you're calling today. That's the first thing. And secondly, just to check with PC Smart that she doesn't take any issue with that.
In relation to the first point, if it assists, the approach I was going to take today is I will speak on behalf of the applicant and I will set out the application. The team I've got then with me are really to answer any questions that the councillors have. So, like I say, I will do the talking and outline our case. The relevant individuals we've got with me are the key people in the business. So if there's any questions of clarification arising from anything I've said or anything that's said in the application or where else, they're then here to respond to those questions.
Thank you. That's most helpful for that clarification. I think we still just need to confirm with PC Smart that she was aware of the further persons who are attending today, and that she doesn't take objection. I don't anticipate there will be, but procedurally, that is what the regulations require the committee to consider for the purposes of hearing anything from them, indeed, even if they have any questions. So, Chair, if I could suggest that PC Smart just be invited to confirm that she's happy for that to happen.
Hi, thank you. I wasn't aware, but I'm happy for it to continue.
Thank you, PC Smart. In that case, we can continue to hear or start to hear from Mr. Humphreys.
Thank you. Mr. Humphreys, please proceed.
Thank you very much. And yes, like I say, that's the approach I'll be taking today. And just to confirm who I've got with me, who you may wish to ask questions of, or you may not, obviously in due course, I have the applicant himself, I have the DPS, and I have Mr. Harris, who's responsible for security at the premises, and I'll make various reference to their roles as I set out the presentation on behalf of the applicant. Councillors, as is set out in your application and report pack, and as has just been outlined, it's an application for a new premises licence for a restaurant. The basis of the objection by the police is primarily in relation to the hours that we're seeking, and the report before you outlines what the core hours are set out in the council's licensing policy, and we're beyond those hours. And there's also a number of conditions raised by the police, and at this stage, the majority of those we're happy with. There's a few points where I think they need finessing, just simply for precision purposes, and there's 1 or 2 which we just simply disagree with, but I'll come on to those in due course. So really, the primary issue between ourselves and the police, who are the only objector, is the issue of the hours, I would suggest. And councillors, as you'll be aware, your own policy at 2.115 outlines factors to consider when considering a licence outside of the core hours identified in the policy. And as I go through, I'll cover those by just setting out what our case is, and you'll see from that why I say we're more than an acceptable application. And indeed, the council's own policy at numerous times invites applications for restaurants and recognises that the addition of restaurants is a benefit to the late night economy of the area, and are not the type of premises that are generally associated with crime and disorder. So councillors, just to give you the background of the business, it's an existing business and the application that's before you will be for the second branch of this business. So the first branch has been trading since 2019 in Bushey. And the license there allows it to serve alcohol up until 12:30 on Sunday through Wednesday and 1:30 on Thursday through Saturday. So marginally later in the early part of the week than is applied for here. And what the business is seeking to do is expand and open its second branch. And so this will be the first phase of its expansion. And we're looking to implement, in essence, the same model as we've successfully done so far at that existing premises. The key individuals in the premises, in the business, are the applicant himself and Mr. Morbin, who's the DPS. They've both obviously already got experience of running that existing business, and so we're aware of the type of issues it warrants. So not only are they generally experienced, they're specifically experienced with running a premises of this nature. And more generally, Mr. Morbin has been involved in this type of industry, for about 15 years, has been the general manager and DPS at various premises, including nightclubs, bars, restaurants and pubs. And so he's more than experienced at dealing with the type of issues that are presented by running a licensed premises. Now, the model of the business is very much fine dining restaurant. That's what it is aiming to be, and that's the type of audience it seeks to attract, is those looking for a fine dining experience. It's very much not a nightclub, so, and I don't think there's been any suggestion that it is, but just to deal with that directly now, it is a fine dining restaurant. And its primary demographic are late diners. So at our existing branch, and what we're aiming for here is we anticipate people coming in to eat around 10:30 and have a leisurely dining experience, looking at realistically spending around 2 hours, potentially longer, enjoying the meal and enjoying the atmosphere of the restaurant. The primary food focus of the restaurant is steak. It is essentially a steakhouse, but we also serve seafood as well. And it's offering a high quality dining experience. And that's what we already do. And that's what we're seeking to do further through the grant of this license. It doesn't cater to those sort of people who are looking for just a quick meal, because that's not what our offer is. And so primarily we'll be looking to open around 5 or 6 in the evening to allow for that evening dining experience. And like I say, anticipate our busy hours being slightly later than that. People who come in to spend some time and really enjoying their meal. As it's a restaurant, it's table service and you get your drinks with food. And so the necessity for the license is to allow people to enjoy a glass of wine or other drink with their meal. There's no dance floor or similar area to that. It is table service, and that's the model of the business. The premises is located in the Royale Retail Park, and it's located in the former Dragon King restaurant, which councillors, you may or may not be aware of the location of. And my clients have purchased that property and invested around £2.2 million into refurbishing it and developing it for their purposes, remodeling it and creating the high-end dining experience, which is their business model. And so just pausing there, councillors, clearly that is a very significant sum of money to invest in a premises. And that demonstrates just right off the outset how serious this is to my clients and how serious they take their application. They want to make good on that return, and an investment of that nature is not to cater to the low end of the market, it's to cater to the high end, and that's the type of clientele they wish to attract, and that's the type of business they wish to run. And just to take you through, I'm sure you may well already be familiar with the area, but just to add some detail to it, we're located on the eastern side of the retail park, in the sort of middle of the height of the retail park. So immediately to our north is the retail park, immediately to the west is the retail park, immediately to the south is more of the retail park, and then to the east is warehousing. And then in the areas surrounding that, like I say, to the east is warehousing, to the north is the main road and hotels, to the east there's the railway line, and then at the southern end of the retail park is trees before you then get to the residential area. So it's very well contained environment. There's no residential receptors adjoining the premises, and it's well screened and surrounded by, like I say, those various different commercial uses. And to get access to the premises, you don't drive through any residential locations. The access is off the main road into the retail park, and that's how you gain access to the site. So it's well protected from people who may potentially be sensitive receptors. And that's part of the reason why my clients have chosen this site, is because it's really well suited to an operation of this nature. The Dragon King, which is what the site formerly was, has a license, and so the premises is already open and operating under that existing license, and our application seeks to grant a brand new license with different operating hours to allow us to trade further into the evening and into the beyond that midnight point. So the premises currently has just under 120 staff, and it opens its doors on the 7th of May. So it's been trading for about a month under those existing hours. And like I've already alluded to, it typically opens around 5 or 6 o'clock to cater to the evening dining audience, and currently trades under those existing hours. So the bar closes at 11 o'clock and everybody's out by midnight. And we're pretty content that things have been going well so far. The busiest period tends to start around 8 o'clock, and that's why that's the point in time which most of the staff come on duty, because that's when the core dining hours are. And so at the peak time, there'll be about 40 to 50 staff on operation at any given time during those peak hours going forward, subject to this license application today being granted. Obviously, with a lot of staff like that, there's a very strict hierarchy in place as to how things run. So the applicant or the DPS, one of those will primarily always be on site to supervise things. And obviously, they're already experienced in running the other branch that's already in existence and is successfully in existence. There's then a tier of managers below them, one manager for each of the relevant departments within the restaurant, then supervise under that, and then the bottom tier is the staff. So it's well-structured, hierarchical organisation, which is well managed and allows a proper, robust management of the premises. We also have external security advice, and indeed, the head of that company is one of the individuals I have with me today. Currently, we're operating with two SIA door staff on Monday through to Thursday, and then either 3 or 4 over the weekend. Currently, that in reality, given the hours we're operating, is too many. But we're open. It's, we've just opened, and we're trying to be robust at the moment. But if the license is granted, we would keep that in place. If the license is not granted, we'd review that situation, because we don't consider it necessary to have that many, but that is how we're operating at the moment. So we're very robust in terms of the measures we've already got in place, the level of staffing, and how we operate. Councillors, like I say, the issues really are the hours that are applied for being longer than really the core hours. And I hope, as I've already outlined, that is perfectly acceptable given the nature of the operation that we're applying for, a high-end dining experience. The location, it's not a sensitive location. Nothing's been highlighted as to who might be potentially affected by this. And for example, there's no representation by environmental health or indeed from any local people making any concern about this application. So that gives you the reassurance in that regard. Councillors, the police have suggested a number of conditions, and if I could ask you to find those in the pack that the committee officer has prepared for you, I'll just add some comments to those. Conditions 1 through 9 all relate to CCTV, and we're content with those, subject to one point of clarification. Condition 1 says CCTV to be installed to the satisfaction of the police, and then makes a reference to evidential quality imaging. The rest of those CCTV conditions then set out what the requirements of any CCTV system would be. And so purely from a legal perspective, I query the requirement to have it to be installed to the satisfaction of the police, because the remainder of the conditions actually set out what the standard required is. So I don't want there to be any ambiguity, because precision with conditions is obviously important. So in principle, I could say no objection, but I think there needs to be a tightening up of the wording of that condition. And I'd suggest that reference is removed, because actually the rest of the conditions achieve that. Condition 10 deals with staff training. Obviously, we will train our staff and welcome and think a condition for training is necessary. Again, just purely from a precision point of view, appropriate staff training must be satisfactorily completed and recorded. That's rather vague, so I think the reference should be something specific. And indeed, the Council's policy at Appendix 7 provides a number of different types of training conditions. And actually, to be fair, this is one that appears in there. But really, the training should be by specific reference, for example, to training in the Licensing Act 2003 and the promotion of the licensing objectives should be given to all staff, and then the record kept, obviously. Or one of the conditions suggested in the model conditions at Appendix 7 is training to ensure that persons who are drunk, disorderly, or appear to be under the age of 18 are not served with alcohol. Something of that nature would be absolutely fine because it's precise. So again, happy with that condition, provided that tightening up is made. Condition 12 deals with SIA door supervisors. And as I've already alluded to, we're happy with that condition on the basis that the hours we applied for are granted. If reduced hours are granted, we don't think that level of door supervision is necessary. Conditions 14 and 15 deal with searching customers with a metal wand and then searching customers with by an SIA trained member of staff. We don't consider that those is necessary. Those are the type of conditions you'd expect to see on a late night entertainment venue like a nightclub or a bar, and that's just simply not what this application is for. It's for a restaurant, and a condition of that nature just simply isn't necessary, and we've not seen any evidence to suggest why a condition of that nature would be necessary. So 14 and 15 we object to because there's just no evidence to support the need for a condition like that. Conditions 17 and 18 are just in essence duplicates of each other. You don't need both of them. They deal with not allowing customers outside after 11 o'clock other than to smoke. So I'd suggest just condition 17 is appropriate. You don't need both of them. Condition 19 that's proposed is obviously linked to the hours that the police are suggesting rather than the hours that we're suggesting. So we would obviously, for the same reasons, object to that condition. But condition 20 refers to the last restaurant booking will be 1 hour and 30 minutes before closing time. Again, we're content with that on the basis that the hours we apply for are granted. So that's condition 20. Conditions 24 and condition 25 deal with a log detailing all refused sales of alcohol. That's also included in condition 27. So obviously no objection to that, and more than content, and that is obviously what we will be operating, but you don't need conditions 24, condition 25, because that's already covered by condition 27. So we just, we say those conditions aren't needed. And then condition 26, it requires the operation of an age verification scheme referring to either Challenge 21 or Challenge 25. In our operating schedule that we've put forward, we want to operate Challenge 25. So we've already proposed that in the operating schedule and therefore no objection to it, but it's Challenge 25 is the policy that we will be operating. And the acceptable identification that's set out in there, again, that's already included in our operating schedule. But again, so obviously, therefore, no objection to that. And so, councillors, that brings us to the position in which this is an application that is not objected to in principle. And on the basis, I hope, of those comments I've made about the conditions, really the only outstanding dispute is about the hours. And really, the issue is, this is a restaurant. It's not anything more than that. The conditions require it to be operated as a restaurant. And it's a location where there's no immediate proximity to any potentially sensitive receptors. So just given that geography and the nature of the operation, the fact that we already operate a premises on the same basis as this and have done successfully, I would submit to you that there's just simply no evidence to substantiate why the hours we're applied for wouldn't be acceptable. We're capable and enthusiastic operators who want to properly run our business. And we're already in place operating on the existing license, and we're operating with our full staff. If this application isn't granted, I think it's probably worth mentioning that we'll have to reduce our staff because we're overstaffed for the nature of the operation that's allowed under the existing license. Our key hours, because of the nature of the clientele, would be those slightly later hours. And so if we don't have this application allowed, it has a serious effect on our business, therefore our staffing as well, and would be very detrimental. And you need to weigh that against the situation, which I'd strongly suggest there's no evidence to support a contention that later hours would not be acceptable. So, councillors, that's all I'd like to say at this stage. I've previously introduced my team. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the team are happy to answer any questions. So please fire away if there's any points of clarifications or further detail that you'd like from us.
Thank you. So, Ms. Humphreys, you don't want to bring any witnesses at this stage?
No, well, like I say, I mean, I'm conscious of the way it works in the digital world. It's easier if just one person speaks rather than me going from person to person to say, in essence, what I've said. And the individuals who are with me can confirm what I've said if you'd like them to. But
that's okay. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I'll invite now the responsible authorities, so the police, to speak. PC Smart, if you could actually, if you have any questions.
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Chair. The outside seating area, how many does that seat, please? How many covers are there?
If I could ask David to jump in on this. Just, Chancellor, if I'll give you a reference for this. In your pack at page, just bear with me a second, page 26, you have the plan of the lounge. Which you can see there that the garden seating area can accommodate up to 101 persons on the basis of that plan. But if I could ask either the DPS or the applicant to jump in and just clarify how things are currently set up and whether or not we think that is likely to be the capacity of it going forward.
So currently we have 60 seats outside, but yes, the capacity is up to that, what you've just mentioned, but we've reduced them massively just because we're in the opening period of the business. So it's more than likely we'll keep it at 60 just because it operates well. There's more space out there. I think people, when they come for a fine dining experience, they like that space outside. They don't want to be sitting too close to people. So yes, it's at 60 at the moment and we intend to keep it at 60. Okay,
thank you. And do you intend to serve food out there? Will people be eating outside?
Yes, we will intend to serve food outside, yes.
Okay, and what about shisha? Will you be having shisha outside?
We will, but there will only be electrical shisha. So we have electrical shisha heads, so we only serve those on site.
Okay, so it's not just fine dining, so you're going to be having shisha as well. So people will be able to come just for the shisha, or will they have to eat as well?
No, correct. Everyone will have to eat, yes.
Okay. On the plan, you've got some separate event rooms. What will they be used for, please?
So you're talking about the upstairs areas?
Yeah.
So again, that's restaurant seating. So we have two separate, or actually 3 separate areas upstairs. They're just divided from downstairs. So we class them as a VIP area. So it just gives you a better view of the restaurant. When people are a higher platform or higher level, they like to feel a bit more a very important person. So it's just a slightly more minimum spend upstairs.
Okay. And on the downstairs on the plan, am I right? Is there there's separate rooms off the ground floor? Are there individual rooms on there?
No, so the whole restaurant downstairs is completely open. As you walk in on the right, there's a waiting area, and it's classed as a private dining room, but it's not private. You can see through it, so there's no doors or anything. It's literally just a private dining room next to the waiting area.
Okay. No further questions at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other objectors in the room at the moment? No. And supporters, is there anybody supporting the application other than what Mr. Humphries has said? I take that as no. I now ask my fellow councillors, do you have any questions?
Yes, Chair. Yeah. So 2 questions. So first one is there's a reference just there. VIP areas have a higher minimum spend. I mean, I had a look at the menu, and it certainly supports Mr. Humphries' claim that it's a high-end place. There's some stakes at 30 quid and so on. But is there a specific minimum spend, for all bookings in the restaurant?
Sorry, if I may speak. I mean, yeah, you rightly have said the menu itself dictates what sort of clients we'll be inviting to our venue. So it's more of a fine dining, and the clients that we're trying to attract are more from the city, for them to have this sort of a big area that they can sit rather than being squeezed in. There is a minimum spend on the weekend, but it doesn't dictate whether you sit upstairs or downstairs. It's first come, first served on the booking. So the earlier you book, you'll be able to book the VIP area. But there is a minimum spend of £45 per head, which easily can be spent after having one drink and the starter. That would add to £45 off your bill.
Great, good, thank you. And just can I ask about the current branch that's running at the moment? Have you had any complaints about noise or antisocial behaviour or any police issues at that branch?
We haven't had any antisocial behaviour at all, full stop. So, but the noise complaints, we've had 1 or 2 in the local area, which we're dealing with the council as we speak. We have installed a SL2000, which is a noise limiter. So I've been running that site for the last 2 years, and I'm full time at Nova now. But during that period, we've had a great relationship with the council. They come down every month just to see what we're about, check the noise levels, and yes, we have installed that. It was actually our offer to install that because we wanted to eradicate those noise complaints and just continue operating as normal.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions, Councillor Shaw?
Yes, I do just have one. I mean, obviously, Mr. Humphries has outlined, and I think the key sort of point in here is, of course, the opening hours that are being applied for. Just in terms of your clientele, and obviously I understand that the later the better for you, especially over weekends perhaps. But obviously it's outside the council's core policy. So I'm just sort of wondering, if you can explain to us just what the numbers look like in your existing premises, and how many people you would be expecting to turn up that late, and really just sort of explain to us why you believe that you should be able to go outside the council's core hours.
So just to give you an idea, over the weekend just gone, we actually record the number of people we turn away between 11 and 12, because at the moment we stop serving food and drink at 11 o'clock, and then everyone's to leave the restaurant at 12. On a Friday, we turned away 89 people in that 1 hour. And on the Saturday, we turned away 126 people in that 1 hour. So there is demand for us, demand for those extra hours. But I think the one thing that will cause that demand to increase will be the Odeon Cinema opening up in the summer. So as soon as that opens up in the summer, the last show for the local Odeon Cinema is 11:10. People will leave there at 12:30 and then be hungry, wanting to drink. So, we want to be able to catch that clientele coming out of that cinema, not only the clientele that we're missing at the moment as well.
And Councillor, I suppose if I just respond to your query about the core hours point, obviously, as you're aware, the way the policy is worded is applications outside the core hours will all be considered on their own merit. So more than entitled to make an application of this nature, and clearly live to that yourself. And I think the point is that, I think, to put it in simple terms, why this can successfully operate outside of those core hours is because the points have just been discussed about the nature of the clientele. That minimum spend we're talking about is a significant one. This is not the sort of place you just turn up to for a bit of a cheap night out and a mess around with your friends. It's couples, wanting to treat each other to a night out. it's groups of friends wanting to enjoy each other's company and have a catch up. You know, that's the type of client, or you know, we're catering for. And the geography is absolutely key here as well. We're on the retail park, you know, we're not proximate, we're not on a high street, you know, with flats behind us or above us. It's on the retail park, the access to which is very controlled. You know, you come along the main road into the site, you don't go through a residential area to get to us. And so that geography just naturally protects, for example, issues like sound, because you can't spill out into anywhere else. And I think if it was to make two simple points in relation to your query, Councillor Shaw, that those would probably be the two main points of response.
Thank you. Nothing else, Chair.
Thank you, councillors. I have a few points of clarification, please. Firstly, on page 26, you mention 101 seating outside, but you are content to say that you want to have only 60. Is that right?
Yeah, of course. So originally the plans were to have 101 outside, but when we've actually got the tables and we've got the chairs, we got them in, we've done a trial run before we opened, and it was just a bit too tight out there, far too tight. So we wanted to put a till outside with some waiter sections as well, to create some space for the guys to utilise and the staff not to have to come inside to put an order on the till. So we've reduced the table numbers outside quite dramatically. So there is only 60 at the moment, and we don't intend to change it.
Thank you. Just to follow up on that, so the seating the seating arrangements in page 26, will the others still be as stated?
Inside hasn't changed, yes, it's just outside at the moment.
Okay. Now, just when you enter the premises, is there just one entrance, one entrance, one exit, or can you actually come into the outside area separately?
No, so there is a fire exit in the outside area, but it only opens from inside. So the only entrance is through the front entrance, which is obviously on the road next door to Nando's.
Thank you. And
oh, sorry, Councillor, apologies, just to add on that point, you'll have seen hopefully in our operating schedule, one of the things we proposed is, and we're able to do it very easily because there's a limited number of accesses, is keeping those closed to prevent noise permeating into the outside environment.
Just to lead on to the noise part, and I actually, when you actually, you say it's not going to be like it's a very high class fine dining. So I just want to relate how you say fine dining on one side, from my experience, fine dining, and loud music on the other. I mean, is there going to be really like loud music that will require sound limiters, or is it just going to be background music? As a restaurant, I presume if it's a restaurant, it will be background music. If it's a bar, it will be loud music. So clarify, please, whether it's a bar or it's a restaurant.
Yes, well, I'll ask my clients to respond to just how that will work in practice. But I suppose, because I'm the one who's used the phrase, I suppose it's probably fair to say, you know, different individuals inevitably have different ideas of what is a high-end dining experience. And I think we'd say we're quite a contemporary one, and our target audience is probably late 20s into the 30s, early 40s. That sort of bracket is probably what we're primarily aiming for. And it's that experiential, you're having quality food, you're catching up with your friends, you sat down, and there is music to listen to. That's the type of high-end experience we're seeking to create. But I'll ask my clients to clarify that further for you, Councillor.
Just to answer to your question, councillors, the music is very much background music. So you would be able to have a conversation with your friends or family whilst you're having your dinner, but the music will be in the background and you will be able to enjoy the music as well. So it won't be loud as a nightclub, if that answers your question, but it will be audible to each other, that you'll be able to have a conversation whilst you're sitting next to each other. So it won't be that loud that you would need to shout to each other to hear. And we will have a DJ on site. That's where fine dining adds on to the experience. Our DJ usually starts at 8 o'clock and finishes at 11 o'clock, obviously at current times. And it will normally finish at 11:30, and then the background music will come on from the speakers, which is going to be very mild, and people will be able to have a conversation.
Thank you very much for that clarification. For now, I just have one more question about the electronic shisha, you say. Now, will that electronic shisha be available only outside and not in the VIP areas, or because it's electronic, you're going to have other reasons to have it inside? Can you explain, please?
Absolutely, because we're tailoring towards fine dining, we don't allow any sort of smoke or anything inside the premises, because although they're electronic, but we still wouldn't allow that. It's only outside, just to give that different atmosphere or different vibe when you're outside. But inside is very much fine dining. I think one thing that I just wanted to add, we are specialized in steak. Our meat are dry aged, so basically the meat is kept in a salty room for 40 days. And then it gets cooked to your requirements of medium or rare, and that on its own, it has its own smell and it has its own taste. Having to have someone having the electronic shisha on that, it just ruins the whole concept for us, and we're aiming towards that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your clarifications. Councillors, do you have any questions before we proceed? Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. So I now invite the responsible authorities to present their case, please.
Hi, thank you, Chair. Chair, as you can see from my representation, it is all about the hours that have been applied for. As it's been discussed, they are outside core hours. We have concern they are excessive, especially on a Friday, Saturday and a Sunday. We believe that 2:30 on a Sunday is very excessive. And not necessary. The core hours, we believe, are more proportionate in relation to the hours. The applicant said a moment ago about people coming out of the cinema and going to the restaurant. If it's fine dining and expensive, I can't see how people, after they've been to the cinema late at night, coming out and then going into the restaurant, if it's that sort of how costly it is. And we have serious concerns in relation to the shisha. It's a large area outside, and a lot of people congregate in the car park of that leisure park. And there's been a few incidents in relation to antisocial behaviour. So we have concerns in relation to shisha being used in the outside area as well. But like I say, my representation, it's all about the hours that have been proposed. They are excessive in relation to the local authority's core hours. We believe that core hours are proportionate and necessary for the licensing objectives to be promoted.
Thank you. Thank you. So do you have any witnesses you want to bring, PC Smart?
No, thank you.
Mr. Humphreys, do you have any questions?
Just one or two of clarification, if I may, Councillor. PC Smart, just in relation to the final point you made in relation to your concerns about the shisha, you've obviously proposed a condition which I've confirmed the applicant is happy with, which curtails outside use to 11 o'clock. Does that remain your position, that that's acceptable?
Yeah, the outside use until 11 p.m, yes.
Yeah. And so given that shisha use outside will cease after 11 o'clock, there doesn't need to be a further concern about that then, does it?
In relation to the outside, well, yeah, it does, because it's still going to be open till 11 p.m, isn't it? So it's still a large area, and that's what we have concerns about, that it is a large area and there's going to be shisha consumed.
Yes, but you've confirmed that you're content with the condition that ends at 11 o'clock. So why is there another concern?
Because that outside area is very large. It doesn't matter whether what time it closes, we still have a concern with that outside area because it's a very large area.
Yeah, but you've suggested that use of that outside area is acceptable until 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
So that's fine then, isn't it? There's not, what's the concern?
Well, I don't understand what you mean, sorry.
Yeah, so I don't understand what you mean, because you've said...
Excuse me, can we please come to the chair? I don't want a conversation here, please.
Apologies, Chair. I think you hopefully understand my point, actually, Chair, so I'll just leave it there and I can deal with it in my summing up.
Thank you.
And I've no further questions, Chair.
Thank you. So any other, so councillors, do you have any questions?
Yes, Chair. Can I just ask? So the applicants are saying that they'll only have 60 people in the outside area rather than 101. So PC Smart, would that alleviate some of your concerns? Although it remains a large area, it would only have half the number of people in if it would.
It would, but it's still a large amount of people. But yes, it would alleviate some concerns. But it's still quite a large number of people to have outside.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, if I could just ask you, PC Smart, just in terms of the hours and the security supervision as well. You know, do you believe that that's adequate given the outside area, as the outside area seems to be a key point of objection here? You know, you haven't sort of mentioned it, so I'm assuming that the security that is being offered by the applicants is pretty much in line with what you'd expect.
Yeah, so it's 2 SIA Monday to Thursday and 3 to 4 over the weekend. Yes, that I believe that's suffice.
And that would be suffice with double the number of people outside as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. PC Smart, what I have one question here, that if are there any provisions where we can limit, would the police be happy with the limit of how many people can sit outside if there is no shisha, but there is food and drinks? Is that a possibility that we can also consider? Would the police be happy with?
Yes, of course, Chair.
Would you suggest a limit?
We'd be happy with, if there was no shisha, with the limit of, is it 60 seats, 60 people they've got at the moment currently?
Yes.
So yeah, if there's no shisha, then I mean 60 for a restaurant outside, I think that's proportionate.
Thank you, PC Smart. Okay, so I have the other question that they've also proposed, Mr. Humphreys has proposed, PC Smart, is about the toughened glass. And now, would you be happy to accept their condition that they don't need that condition? Am I right, Mr. Humphreys? Is that what you suggested?
No, sorry, Councillor. If we go by the number on the police's suggested conditions, it was the 2 conditions relating to searching individuals entering the premises. So those were numbers 14 and 15 we were objecting to. So that was the requirement that all customers are searched with a metal wand on entry and re-entry. And then number 15 is the requirement that all persons entering and re-entering must be searched by SIA trained members of staff.
Okay.
Those are the 2 conditions. It wasn't the toughened glass, it was those 2 conditions that we were specifically objecting to, as well as the ones that I outlined that link up with the hours, which is sort of a different dispute.
So you are happy with the toughened glass, if that's a condition that's put on?
Yes, I'll just ask my clients just to confirm, but yes, I understand we've got no objection to that.
Okay, and PC Smart.
Sorry, Councillor, can I ask my clients just to double confirm that?
Sorry, yes, please go ahead, sorry.
Yes, yeah, toughened glass, not a problem at all, yeah.
PC Smart, the fact of the entrance, the applicant is objecting to the wand and searching. What's your views on that, please?
Yeah, well, we believe that would be necessary. I understand it's a restaurant, but you're saying that there's going to be a DJ as well. And obviously, police are concerned about any weapons getting in that may cause crime and disorder. So I understand it's not a nightclub as such, but if you're going to have a DJ there and you want him, obviously if later out is going to be granted, then obviously we have concerns that weapons aren't going to be taken in. That's hence why that condition has been put on, but obviously it's down to the committee to deem it necessary if need be.
Thank you very much. Councillors, do you have any other questions? No.
If I may, sorry, add just to the
Yes, please.
Although it's definitely not a nightclub, you wouldn't expect to walk into a high-end restaurant in central London where they will have a live DJ which will play background music and be searched with the metal detector. That puts off the clientele that we're trying to get here, and they might come the first and the second time. It's a bit of embarrassment that if they very highly individuals. The clientele that we get, they are celebrities, and most of them are from a good background. So having to search them in that way, it will be a little bit embarrassment for us to let them into our premises. And like I said, nobody's getting out of their seats. They're seated as they walk in by the hostess, and their food is getting served as well as their drinks. So I think that would be unnecessary, but of course it's in the councillor's hands what they would decide.
Thank you. No, thank you very much for that. Does anybody have any other points before we sum up? Okay, Mr. Humphreys, so that was the point that we were going to miss out, but we're not going to miss it out. You got your opportunity to sum up, please.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, before I summing up first, the summing up will be from PC Smart and then from the applicant. So PC Smart, please sum up first.
Chair, it's be short but sweet. As I've said, the hours applied for in the application are outside of your core hours, especially on a Sunday, which the police object to. And we believe that core hours in that area are proportionate and necessary for the licensing objectives to be promoted. Yes, I understand it's a fine dining experience, but however, those hours proposed are still excessive, especially on a Sunday. I've spoken to the applicant, and they weren't, the hours that I've proposed are reducing it slightly, but obviously they were not, we weren't in an agreement with reducing the hours at all. So the applicant is set on the hours proposed. As you can see in my representation, I did propose earlier hours, but they weren't agreed. So we believe that the hours proposed are proportionate.
Thank you, PC Smart. Mr. Humphreys, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. And just to start off with, I'll probably say something that everybody like me says to you whenever you have one of these committee hearings. The decision you make today as a matter of law has to be based on evidence. It can't be based on speculation, assumption, anything of that nature. It has to be an evidence-based decision. The policy that we're concerned with about core hours is not a cumulative impact policy. It's not a rebuttable presumption or anything like that. It's just a suggestion, and you are entitled to, and when you have an application made for hours outside that, you're required to consider it. The police, with respect, have not actually presented any evidence which suggests why these later hours would be a problem. So, for example, there's no crime statistics. There's no suggestion that there's ongoing knife crime in the area. There is nothing of that nature before you. So there is no evidence to substantiate the concerns that have been raised. So the starting point that you should there look at is what is actually known. You know how the business is going to operate because we've outlined that to you. You know what the geography of the location is because that's in existence. You know that no local people who've made any objections. You know that no other responsible authorities have made any objections. And the reason really it seems to me that the objection is made by the police is simply because the hours are beyond the core hours. Councillors, your policy provides a list of non-exhaustive but factors to have regard to when considering applications outside of the core hours. One of the questions is proximity to residential accommodation. I've already outlined that for you. You know, we're not really near anything, and there's no suggestion has been made in that. And so then another one is the potential for noise and nuisance from people leaving. There's been no concern raised in relation to that. The use of external areas. Well, PC Smart has confirmed that she's content with that condition that stops use of the external area after 11 o'clock. So I don't really understand what the concern is about the outdoor area. We're happy to only use it until 11 o'clock and then stop using it at that point. I genuinely don't understand what the concern is in relation to that. The type of use, we are a restaurant. We already own and operate a restaurant under this business model. So it's not a speculative application in that nature. We already do this, and it's a premises that runs successfully, to the extent that we're now looking to open a second premises, and in fact have opened a second premises and are just looking to operate it later. So you've got evidence of that in that regard as well. And so given that you have to make an evidence-based decision, there is no evidence to suggest that we cannot operate in the way we've said and that there will be any problems caused. We could just deal with then so that deals with the hours point. There's just simply nothing to support why later hours wouldn't be acceptable. Deal with a couple of specific points that were made. The suggestion that PC Smart doesn't see why people going to the cinema would come to the premises because they wouldn't be after a high-end dining experience. I'm not sure that people who would eat at a high-end restaurant wouldn't go to the cinema. I'm pretty sure that film is pretty popular across all levels of society. So I'm struggling to sort of follow the logic behind that one, but I don't think that really takes us anywhere in any event. The two primarily contentious conditions, which we just simply do not accept, except for those that link to the hours, which obviously you understand my points in relation to, are the requirements to search people who are entering the premises. This is a restaurant. And as my client has said, you would not expect to be searched on your way into a restaurant. And the council's policy repeatedly invites and recognises that applications for restaurants are a positive thing, and specifically recognises that they're not premises that are normally associated with crime and disorder. So the council's own policy would tend to support my contention. There's just simply no justification for a condition of that nature. And if you want to check that, there's numerous references in the policy: 1.7, 2.6, 2.92, and 2.93. But again, I come back to the starting point I made. There's no evidence to support that contention. There's no suggesting that our other premises, for example, is associated with these type of problems, or there's an existing problem in this location, or that known individuals would be likely to frequent our premises, or that in the month that we've already been open, there has been problems of this nature. There's just no evidence of that nature. And so that condition can't be supported. Councillors, I've probably gone more beyond just a simple summing up there, so apologies for that. But the position of ourselves is this is a beneficial application to the late night economy of the council's area. We'd hope you welcome it. We're content with most of those conditions, as we said. And by allowing the hours we're applying for, you would allow us to continue to employ more staff and cater to a market that might not currently be catered for. We think that should be welcomed. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak to you today, councillors, and thanks for your questions through the course of the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Humphreys. Thank you, everybody, for your being present and your representations. I'll just, before we retire for deliberations, I would like to ask our legal advisor, Ms. Zeb, to whether you have anything you want to add.
Chair, the only clarification I was going to suggest is, Mr. Humphreys, you've gone through the conditions that have been proposed by the police, and you've suggested some duplication, some not agreed, and some amendments. Can I just check whether those have been shared with PC Smart in any written form or not, and can those be shared with the panel for when they retire? We've taken a note of what you've said, sorry.
Apologies, I've simply done it orally, but I could put that in writing if you would like and circulate it. I can't do it right now, but I could do it sort of within the next half an hour, I suppose.
Chair, it's a matter for you. It may assist you to have those proposals as were submitted to you. We haven't known them, but you do need to make a decision in relation to this matter. And if they can be copied into PC Smart so she has sight of exactly what it is that you're proposing, it would be helpful.
Yes, I think that would be most helpful, Ms. Zeb. And Mr. Humphreys, would you be able to circulate that and agree with the thing with Ms. PC Smart as well?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure they'll be agreed as such, but I can email them around.
You could circulate your proposal, please.
I can do that.
It's not for PC Smart to agree to them. It's just so that she's aware of exactly what you've sent through, given your representations that have been made during the hearing. It's for the panel now to make their considerations when they retire.
Yeah, I can do that. I'll do that as soon as we're off the hearing and aim to have them circulated within half an hour.
So,
Thank you.
so I think we usually would have taken about half an hour to retire and deliberate, but now that we will need those conditions, I think it's now coming to 10 to 2. I think we'll have to propose 3 o'clock to come back, and because we'll have to wait for the conditions, or yeah, so if we propose ourselves to come back for 3 o'clock.
Yeah, well, we're content with that. And I presume, apologies, just to clarify, for everyone, we just log on to the same link again, don't we?
I have Jack, Ms. Roberts.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So if those now would
just so you're aware, I won't be able to attend at 3 o'clock. I have other appointment. Sorry.
Just what time? Just for our reference. I mean, maybe we can adjust the timing. What's the latest you can attend, Mrs. Smart?
2:30. So I've got childcare. I have to pick my son up from school.
Okay. All right. So
I'm happy for an email or someone to call me. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Smart. Thank you.
So, sorry, are we sticking with 3 o'clock then, or are we moving to 2:30? Sorry.
We're sticking with 3 o'clock.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. So those now in the room, would you just, if you would leave the room now?